Welcome to Simply Explained English. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So let's get started and make English easy. So Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is skeptical. Then we will continue with punctual and to storm off. Then to comply with. And the final one is under the weather.
So let's start with the first word.
The first word today is skeptical.
Skeptical.
Skeptical is an adjective. It means not easily believing something. If you are skeptical, it means you have doubts, or you are not sure that something is true. For example, if someone tells you a story that sounds strange, you might feel skeptical about it.
That's right. When someone is skeptical, they don't easily believe what they hear or see. Let's give some examples. This is the first one. Anna was skeptical about the new diet plan. It means that Anna wasn't sure if it would work or not.
Exactly. Now, I'll give another example. Tom was skeptical when his friend said he could fly a plane. It means that Tom did not really believe his friend could fly a plane. He thought it wasn't true.
So, one thing to note is that skeptical is an adjective. We often use it with the preposition about. For example, skeptical about something.
Yes, that's important to remember. Now, let's move on to example dialogue.
Hey, Mike, have you heard about the new superhero movie?
Yeah, I heard about it, but I'm a bit skeptical. I don't think it will be very good.
Really? I think it looks fun. Why are you skeptical?
Well, the last movie by the same director wasn't that great, so I'm not sure about this one.
That was a nice dialogue, Eric. It shows how we use skeptical to talk about not believing something completely. Do you think being skeptical is good or bad, Eric?
I think it can be both. Sometimes it's good to be skeptical so we don't believe everything right away. But sometimes it's also important to be open-minded.
I agree. And do you think skeptical is a common word?
I think it's a bit more common in formal situations, like when talking about news or information, but people use it informally too, especially when they have doubts.
That's true. I think it's a useful word for everyone to know. It helps us express when we are not sure about something.
Absolutely, Lisa.
So I think we have explained skeptical pretty well. Let's move on to the next word.
The next word is punctual.
Punctual.
Punctual is an adjective, which means being on time. If you are punctual, it means you arrive at the correct time, not late. For example, if your class starts at 9 o'clock and you are there at 9, you are punctual.
Right, Eric. Let's look at some examples. The example sentence is, John is always punctual for work. It means that John is never late for work. He always arrives on time every day.
Exactly. Now it's my turn. The bus driver is very punctual and always leaves at 8 a.m. It means that the bus driver always starts the bus at 8 a.m., not before or after. He leaves right on time.
Now, let's move on to our sample dialogue about the usage of punctual.
Hey, Tom, are you coming to Sarah's party tonight?
Yes, of course. I will be there at 7 p.m. I'm always punctual, you know.
Ha ha, yes, you are. Sarah will be happy if everyone is punctual tonight.
That was a nice dialogue, right? It shows how being punctual can be important, even for social events like parties.
Absolutely, Eric. Now, let's have a little chat about the word punctual. Eric, do you think being punctual is important?
Oh, definitely, Lisa. I think being punctual shows respect for other people's time. If you are late, it can make other people wait, and that's not very nice.
I agree. And do you think punctual is a formal word?
Not really. I think it's a word we use in both formal and informal situations. You can say it when talking to friends or even in a meeting at work.
Yes, exactly. It's a useful word. And I think it's good to be punctual, not only for work but also for friends and family. It makes everyone happier.
Absolutely. So, everyone listening, try to be punctual. It's a simple way to make a good impression.
Well said, Eric. That's all for today's word, punctual. We hope you found it helpful and learned something new today. Let's move on to our next word.
All right, Lisa. The next phrase we have is comply with. Comply with is a phrasal verb, and it means to follow rules or instructions. When you comply with something, you do what you have to do according to a rule, request, or law. It's like following something that you have to do.
Eric, could you give us an example?
Of course. Here's the first example sentence. All employees must comply with the company's safety rules. It means that all employees must follow the company's safety rules to keep everyone safe.
Good example, Eric. Here's another one. Drivers must comply with traffic laws to avoid accidents. This means that drivers need to follow the rules of the road. If they don't, they could cause accidents.
Exactly. And a quick grammar tip. Comply is usually followed by with. You can't just say, comply the rules. You need to say, comply with the rules.
Right. Now let's move on to a short dialogue to show how comply with can be used in a conversation.
Did you hear about the new regulations at work?
Yeah, we have to comply with them, even if they seem a bit strict.
I know, but I think they help keep everyone safe, so it's important.
You're right. It's better to comply with the rules than to take risks.
It was good dialogue. Lisa, have you ever had to comply with a lot of new rules?
Good question, Eric. It reminds me of when I started my first job. They had a lot of safety rules, and I made sure to follow them all. It was overwhelming at first, but I knew it was for everyone's safety.
That's a good point, Lisa. I remember when my school introduced new rules about using mobile phones, and we all had to comply with them. It wasn't easy, but it helped us focus more on our studies.
These examples show how comply with is used in everyday life. Eric, do you think comply with is formal or informal?
I think it's more on the formal side. You would hear it in workplaces, legal situations, or official instructions. In everyday casual conversations, people might just say follow or obey.
Exactly. And listeners, remember, comply with is often used when talking about rules, laws, or guidelines. It's a useful phrase to know, especially in formal situations.
Absolutely. So remember, everyone, complying with the rules is important, especially when it's about keeping people safe.
Well said, Eric. Well, that's it for comply with. Let's move on to our next phrase.
All right, the next word is storm off.
Storm off.
Storm off is a phrasal verb. It means to leave a place very suddenly because you are angry. For example, if you have an argument with someone, you might get so upset that you leave quickly. That is storming off.
That's right, Eric. Let's look at some examples. I'll start with the first one. After the argument, Sarah stormed off and didn't come back. It means that Sarah left quickly because she was very angry. She did not want to stay after the argument.
Now, here's another example. The manager stormed off the meeting when the team disagreed with him. It means that the manager got angry because the team did not agree with him. He left the meeting quickly.
One important thing to remember is that storm off is usually used when talking about someone leaving because of anger.
Yes, that's a good point, Lisa. Now, let's practice using storm off in a short dialogue.
Hey, Jack, did you see what happened at the office today?
Yes, I did. The boss stormed off when the new project idea was rejected.
I know. I couldn't believe it. He just stormed off without saying anything else.
That was a good dialogue, Lisa. It shows how storm off can be used when someone leaves because they are upset or angry.
Exactly, Eric. Do you think this phrase is common?
I think it's quite common, but mostly in informal situations. You wouldn't use it in a formal report or in a business email.
Yes, definitely. It's more of a casual phrase that we use with friends or in stories. And do you think it's good to storm off when we're angry?
Probably not. It's better to stay calm and talk things through. But sometimes people get really upset and they storm off without thinking.
True, that happens. But it's always better to try and solve the problem calmly if we can. And that's all for today's word, storm off. We hope you found it helpful. Okay, well, what is the last word of today, Eric?
The last word of today is under the weather.
Under the weather.
Under the weather is an idiom, and it means feeling unwell or a bit sick. It's a casual way to say that you're not feeling your best. For example, you might use it when you have a cold or just feel tired and not quite yourself.
That's right. When someone says they're under the weather, they're not feeling their best.
Exactly. Here's an example sentence. I didn't go to work today because I felt under the weather. This means I wasn't feeling well enough to go to work. It suggests that I felt a bit sick but not seriously ill.
Good one, Eric. Here's another example. She didn't come to the party because she was a bit under the weather. This means she didn't come because she wasn't feeling well. Maybe she had a headache or was just tired. It's often used for minor illnesses or when you're not feeling great.
And a quick note, under the weather is an informal phrase, so it's perfect for casual conversations. You wouldn't really use it in formal writing or in a serious medical context. Instead, you'd just say you're unwell or sick.
Now, let's move on to a short dialogue to see how under the weather can be used in a conversation.
Hey, David. You look a bit tired today. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just feeling a little under the weather. I think I will become cold.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Make sure you get some rest.
Thanks, I will. Hopefully, I'll feel better by tomorrow.
That was a good example of how under the weather can be used in everyday conversation. Eric, have you ever felt under the weather?
Oh, for sure. Last week, I felt a bit under the weather, so I stayed home and rested. I think it's always good to listen to your body and take a break when you need it.
Absolutely, Eric. It's important to take care of yourself when you're not feeling well. By the way, Eric, would you say under the weather is more formal or informal?
Definitely informal, Lisa. It's the kind of phrase you'd use with friends or family. In formal situations, it's better to say you're feeling unwell or simply not well.
So, listeners, remember, if you're ever feeling just a bit off, you can say you're under the weather.
Yes, Lisa, it's a nice casual way to let people know you're not feeling your best without making it sound too serious.
I agree. Well, that's it for Under the Weather and our podcast today. We hope you found the words today helpful.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English and try to be punctual and calm down before storming off.
See you next time.
Bye for now.